And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. It is a Eagles-Ravens matchup, probably the most anticipated matchup on the Eagles schedule. We'll get into that. Andrew DiCecco is here from the Inside the Birds podcast at InsideTheBirds.com. And Andrew, yesterday we looked back at what the Eagles did well against the Rams, the improvement of this team. But this will be the most challenging game on their schedule, probably a more challenging opponent than Green Bay. They got Pittsburgh coming up down the road. But this Baltimore team probably presents the biggest challenge of the season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is a team that can match the Eagles' physicality. But I'm also of the belief, and I know I've heard this a lot this week, that this is a big test. Well, they said the same about the Eagles and the Rams, the Eagles and the Bengals. And I just think that eventually you just have to sort of subscribe to the fact that this Eagles team is just good, and this Ravens team is just good. So it'll be cool to see how they measure up. Now, both teams sort of are fueled by the running game, and I'm interested to see how they, because I do believe that they're going to have to eventually take to the air, and this probably will be the week that both teams are forced to do so. So I'm curious to see how they're able to match.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing. We talk a lot about whether or not if this team got down 2 scores, do they have the capability to kind of put the ball in the air? That's a weird question to ask with Jalen Hurts and Brown and Smith and Goddard and the weapons they have. But is that a legitimate question? If they're down in this game, 21-7, 28-10, and they have to fight their way back through the air, do you feel confident that they can get that done?
To a degree, yes. Now, a lot of it has to do with the Ravens and their woeful pass defense, Mike, but I've seen moments where maybe things aren't going according to plan, and you see Jalen be able to hit A.J. Brown on a slant route, and that's really all it takes. That's an automatic play, and A.J.'s so good at breaking tackles that sometimes all you need is a play like that to really get yourself going offensively, establish a rhythm. I do believe that Dallas Goedert should have a good game because we'll have to see what happens with Roquan Smith. If he's not able to go, that's going to leave that middle of the field pretty wide open, and it's also going to affect them against the run. But I think that the Eagles have obviously enough there to establish a viable passing game. It's just a matter of getting off to a fast start and being able to make sure that you're sustaining drives and not having them stall because you're not able to connect or because there's communication breakdowns or what have you. That's going to be the big question to me because Jalen always has the talent to do it, but you can't turn things on in the third or fourth quarter. You have to be able to make some plays in the first and second.
In your mind, let's kind of take a look at this. Can Philadelphia run the ball successfully against Baltimore? This is kind of strength on strength. You mentioned their woeful pass defense. They're pretty good against the run. They only give up 77 yards a game. Maybe a lot of that is because they have the lead a lot. People have to throw against them, but they are pretty good against the run, 77 yards a game. Do you think Philly says, you know what, we can still, they're second in the league in that department? Do you look at Philly's strength and say Baltimore's strength against Philly's strength, but Philly's better at what they do?
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to lean on their offensive line. I do believe that they feel, and rightfully so, that their offensive line is equipped to withstand any sort of defensive upfront penetration, and they're going to eventually wear down every defensive front that they play because of the sheer mass and physicality in which they play. So it's going to be mass on mass, and I believe that the Eagles are going to win out. They're going to continue to try to get Saquon Barkley going. You may see them pop a 3 or 4 yard gain, but eventually you're going to see the back-breaking 45, 50-yard run. I don't know if Saquon will get 100 yards in this game, but I have a strong sense that he's going to have a big impact and come up with some critical runs. And the Eagles are going to, if they've proven anything this year, Mike, they're committed to the running game, unlike anything I've seen in recent years. And I have a funny feeling that that's going to be their approach to start the game. But Jalen's going to have to do a lot more with his arm in this one because this Baltimore run defense is pretty for real. That doesn't mean it's going to deter the Eagles from trying it, but eventually he's going to have to make some big throws earlier in the game to keep the offense on schedule.
They are the second worst team against the pass in the NFL defensively, so we'll see if the Eagles like to run the ball, keep it there, or take a chance through the air this week against Baltimore. Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. what is the plan in your mind if you're Vic Fangio for a player like Lamar Jackson? They really have not faced a quarterback anywhere near this. Not that there are many, but nobody quite like him, even in style, even like a cheaper version of him.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is such a tremendous and a unique talent that you don't want to become over-aggressive. You have to account for him to be able to make plays on the move and extend plays, and that puts a unique stress on the defense. Now, I thought the Eagles did a fantastic job in battling up Jaden Daniels. Obviously, he's nowhere in the same class as Lamar Jackson in terms of his escapability, but he's certainly elusive, and I thought the Eagles had a good plan. They didn't really spy him. They played it close to the vest. They didn't do a whole lot of creativity there. They just kept everything in front of them, and with Lamar Jackson, if you are too over-aggressive, if you do spy, that leaves you limited and sort of exploits you in a way. So I wouldn't expect the Eagles to do anything drastic this week, but they're going to try to do everything they can to keep him in the pocket. So Lamar Jackson has the ability to break a game wide open, but he's not in the same class, in my opinion, of Jalen Hurts as Jalen Hurts is in terms of throwing the football. So I do believe that the game plan will be to try to bottle up Lamar Jackson, to stop him from running, do what you can to crowd the box and rally to the football and tackle Derrick Henry, and then force Lamar to kind of pick apart your secondary, which I don't believe he could do.
Yeah, and the other thing would be the Eagles' run defense. Their run defense is one of the top 10 in the league right now. They give up under 100 yards a game up against Henry, which is a huge challenge for everybody. But are they equipped? You're losing Brandon Graham. I think one of the underrated parts about Graham, Andrew, is his ability against the run. He sets the edge. He's really good in that department. How do they stand up this week against Baltimore's run game?
Yeah, this is going to be a big game for Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis doesn't play a ton. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet often, but what he does is occupy double teams and allow the linebackers in Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean to roam free and attack the line of scrimmage and fill the gaps. Case in point was Nakobe Dean shot right through the gap, made a nice tackle for a loss or for no gain on Kyron Williams last week. And none of that's possible without the efforts up front from Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Those two players are going to be so instrumental to the Eagles if they are to win this football game. Milton Williams as well. Milton Williams can play a little end, so you might want to get he can give you some more size up front if you kick him out in certain packages. So we'll have to see how they look to do it, but I think that they are equipped to bottle up Derrick Henry. But just like you saw back in 2022, where there's all that talk going in the Eagles-Titans and how the Titans are a physical team, the Eagles came out, if you remember, Mike, very charged up and almost like they were trying to prove a point. And they limited and stymied their run defense and sort of bullied them in a way. So I'll expect them to take that same mindset, rally to the football, and try to establish dominance pretty early.
All right, in your mind, this game, very entertaining. Baltimore's had a couple hiccups along the way. Philadelphia's had this win streak. What's the main difference in this game that ends up kind of being the factor one way or the other?
I think the Eagles' defense is better crafted. It's better. It has a lot more balance, I would say, at the first, second, and third level. Their pass defense is better than the Ravens' pass defense, and I think ultimately that's going to be the determining factor because when Lamar Jackson goes to the air, they have to worry about Quinyon Mitchell. They have to worry about Cooper DeJean. Those are players that will make plays or can make plays on the football. They get their hands on the football. This is going to be a week where I think that they can take it away. That's going to be the big difference for me. I think the Eagles are a much better defense than what the Ravens are able to do. So ultimately, yeah, I do think it could be a shootout. I do think that they're going to be matching scores, but at the end of the day, the Eagles have the better defense, and that will be the determining factor.
All right, a lot of fun in this game. This one's for real. You got Ravens and the Eagles, a big game for Baltimore in the AFC race there is obviously they need this game. This isn't like, hey, this is a team that is secure, even though they're probably a playoff team. It is a loss for Baltimore, which shakes some things up on that AFC side of things. And, of course, Philadelphia, they are still in play for the number 1 seed. So this is a very important game. Baltimore, the 5 seed at 8-4, and Philadelphia, the 2 seed at 9-2. You can listen to the game on 97.3 ESPN. Always a pleasure to catch up with you. Happy Thanksgiving, man. 3 games tomorrow all day long. Yeah. And then, of course, the Eagles on Sunday. So a very good time of the year. Happy Thanksgiving, and always appreciate your insight and coverage, man.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Josh, and all the great listeners. I always appreciate you guys.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, everybody, from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN.